He's our reigning. Did we mention that he's our reigning champion of the European WCS?
You know, I've heard once or twice that he might be considered the best player in the world right now, or something like that.
He is.
But of course, again, if you missed out on yesterday's broadcast, or any of the other 6 broadcasts from Season 2, or any of the other 6 broadcasts from Season 1, then you might not know what the format is here for Challenger. Now, of course, we do have 16 players that have qualified to Challenger. We'll put them in 4 groups of 4. 2 players will advance out of each one of these groups and go to a single elimination round 8 playoffs.
And that'll be played later this month, August 25th or so.
2 weeks,
really fun.
About 2 weeks from now.
Yeah, it'll be really cool.
Going to be a very, very fun event. But of course, if you guys also want to know what is exactly on the line here for Challenger, we had a $10,000 prize pool, $1,600 to Serral, I mean first place, $400 to all the players that get knocked out today or in the group stages, and of course all those WCS points for our final season of Challenger this year, right as we're rearing around BlizzCon.
Yep, a lot of money going around, a lot of WCS points. We talked about this yesterday, but those points are insanely critical for a lot of people. Not Serral. Serral's just here to take points from everybody else and just keep winning Starcraft. But for a lot of these other guys, it determines whether or not they're going to BlizzCon, which is a big, big deal.
Yeah. I mean, it's even pretty important with Montreal approaching, having just slightly better seeding for Montreal, etc. But, of course, we take a look at this is going to be the schedule for today. We got Serral starting off versus Denver. We got Euthermal facing off versus Hearthstone in a good old Netherlands showdown. And then, of course, we're going to go to that losers match, that winners match, and finally, we're going to be closing it out with that decider match for the European group before we move on to North America.
Yeah, really excited about this. Always a question mark as to what kind of, Hearthstone and Euthermal will show up. Euthermal is one of the players that, by his own accord, but also by, his performance, says he could take out a Serral. He's that level. And then Hearthstone's a player that's either like one of the absolute best in Europe or, well, still one of the best, but perhaps not top tier. So we'll see. It'll be fun.
Yeah, that's going to be a pretty interesting match. I think that's probably going to be considered the closer match of the 2 right now. This is a rough one right now for Denver because, quite frankly, facing off versus Serral, who's just come off of the victory of GSL versus the world, is considered one of the best players in the world, if not the best player in the world right now. And Denver's is kind of somewhat up-and-coming player who's been around since 2013, still looking for those results, played in a lot of these European lands. I really think that this is one of those moments where we look and say, hey, you know what? If you can take a map off of Serral, that's one of those things that we remember.
It could be. Well, we're getting into the game right now, and I do want to make one mention of this. It may not be an issue whatsoever, but Serral has said ahead of time that where he is, there's a thunderstorm, so if he loses power, we'll do everything we can to get him back, and we'll just commentate something else and give him some time to do that. Again, maybe it won't actually happen. Maybe it won't be a problem, but if it does, now you know what's going on.
All right, well, let's start it off up here in the top right-hand corner of the map, top of the blue Zerg player. He is Team Ence's Serral.
You didn't say that.
I didn't say this.
Okay.
No.
Sometimes, no, in the morning, sometimes your mind, like, and then you go, oh my God.
I thought you said it was the afternoon, Jeff.
Oh my God. You do remember. He remembers.
All right. Well, spotting down here in the bottom left-hand corner of the map, going for a bit of an early pool, we do have the red Zerg player. He's Denver.
I like it. We had a lot of cheddar in yesterday's ZvZs, but if you're going up against a Titan like Serral, it's one of those really tough StarCraft situations where you're like, hey, do I break the mold, do something really different when I face someone way better than me, or do I just kind of do what got me here? And normally, you don't want to go too far against the grain, but the nice thing about ZvZ is all these guys practice the cheese a little bit. There's nobody that's like, no, I never go pool first. No, I think you always mix it in. Even Snoot, we saw cheese yesterday as well in that game 3.
Yeah, and I think it kind of goes back to like one of the fundamental ideas of why people like to cheese versus players they think are better than them. And it's like the opposite of chess. In a game of chess, you start off the game, and the game is really complex because there's so many pieces, you have so many moves you can make, and then the games gradually get simpler and simpler as you lose pieces. But in StarCraft, it's the opposite. It's the game starts off really simple, so there's less ways that your opponent can outplay you necessarily in the first like 2 minutes of the game, and then the game gets more complex and it gets harder later. So I
like what you said, but I'm afraid because I'm sensing some chess aficionados out there that would say, when you say chess gets simpler and simpler as pieces are removed, that they have a severe issue with that. But you know what? I like what you said. I'm going to stand by it.
They can't argue with me right now.
No, they don't have a microphone.
No, exactly.
1 drone picked off, 2 drones picked off. I do like this so far, by the way, going right past the hatchery, because he is just doing a hatchery behind this, right? So if he was to gas and banelings and stuff like that, it's a huge all-in. But now he's just trying to get some damage done.
Yeah, I actually like this. I feel like a lot of Zerg players just go gung-ho on those hatcheries, and I really like just going after some of those drones right now. Actually, wow.
Sick micro, though. He actually didn't lose another drone.
That was a really, really nice cleanup.
Yowzers.
3 workers lost.
Yeah, which equalizes them, too, which is kind of funny, right? So it ends up being, like, I mean, look at, like, the speed timings, in fact. Like, Serral's just a little bit ahead there. Army about the same. Workers about the same.
Did Serral pull off of... Oh, Serral pulled off of gas entirely. Yeah.
He did.
Which is
just wants that speed, man.
Yeah, which is a little bit more normal, but I'm sort of interested because Denver is still mining a little bit of gas.
Well, I think he pulled off the gas because he lost 3 drones. So I don't think we put Serral on such a level where he's like, well, I think with those 3 drones dead, I'm like exactly even with him. He's more saying, okay, I lost a couple drones, lost some mining time. I need to fully focus on minerals right now.
Okay. Well, Denver is going to be going straight up to that Roach Warren, the Evo Chamber, getting that full wall off, going over it as natural, whereas Serral's kind of going through the route of, hey, let's grab our 3rd base.
Fear Dragon.
Let out Lings.
There's something else coming on here, man. Yeah, the Lings. The Roach Warren's a ruse, my man. It's part of the Wallen, right?
Yeah.
Almost certain of it. So the Bailey Nest is hidden. The 2 queens make it look like, hey, I'm really defensive. Don't come in here. It's also denying scouting, of course, but it does make you think they're aware of something. When in fact, it's going to be a bunch of Lings and Banelings behind this, and something you pointed out, Fear Dragon, the gas just barely now getting mined. No Baneling Nest, Evo Chamber, no Roach Warrens. It's going to be Ling Baneling against just Lings, and now the Roach Warren gets mined.
All right, well, the Lings have, or at least some of the Lings have been revealed over here for Denver as they start flooding across the map. It is 32 Lings right now for Denver and 10 Lings for Serral. Serral's, of course, going to have that defender's advantage. He's got a couple of queens, and he's got a little bit of that wall-in going. He's actually even going to be able to get his Lings back behind those queens just in time.
Yep. And now it's about making the decision. Do you defend the 3rd? There is no 3rd for Denver, so I almost wonder if Serral says, you know what, you can have it. And here comes Denver. He's just waiting for the Banelings to try to get a wall, but he's not going to be able to do it. The Lings get inside. Now, the equal number of Lings has balanced out, but here come the Banelings to try and shift the balance of power. Wow. They get targeted down mostly before they do anything. They're chasing after the Lings, not going after the drones in this case. And now the Lings in that position, excuse me, the Queens in that position are really strong.
Yeah, the Queens were doing a great job holding the line. They eventually back up, but then the Lings immediately for Serral complete the concave, preventing this around. And holy cow, Serral, is he actually holding on to this? There was a point where he was down about 20 Zerglings, and he's still making this work.
Yep, he's just doing all the right things. Knew not to go out and expose himself at the 3rd. Made a stand at the natural. Now, it's not over yet. There's still Lings coming out for Denver, and there are Banelings here. You know, it feels weird to say this, but if Serral makes a mistake and those Banelings connect with a huge group of Lings, it still will be over. He lost the Queens earlier. If you look at that production tab, he's not making any more right now. I think he has 1 or 2 anyways. Yeah, there's 2 at the natural behind this wall. Broodling's getting some damage in.
All right, Roach Warren's getting target fire down, so he's not going to be able to make too many more Roaches after that does go down, although Evil Chamber is actually going to get target fired down instead. Now 3 Roaches on the way. The Lings break the wall. The Broodlings holding the line for a little bit, but now the Queens have been surrounded. Serral, finally having dealt with the Baneling, can finally start engaging.
Yeah, if there was a second wave of Banelings, I would be really worried at this moment in time for Serral, but there wasn't. A few Roaches did come out, and like you said, he won't be able to remake them, but even just the few Roaches offer yet more ranged weaponry against Banelings, but there aren't going to be any Banelings as we see. Well, I mean, even as I say that, 16 more Lings, and now +1 melee. Denver wants this game to descend into chaos. My fear for him is that Serral's already remaking the 3rd, so that'll be slightly ahead. But with Roaches, the +1 melee at this point in time gets a little bit weird, because if you hit this certain number of Roaches, you can have +1 all you want. It's good for counterattack, sure, but other than that, you won't be able to beat on Roaches.
Yeah.
And it's late, so if Serral does push across right now, +1 won't even be a factor. So it's you know, it's a little bit of a reach moment here, I think, for Denver.
I mean, even if Serral waits for +1 missile attacks of his own, then those Lings are going to get 2-shotted regardless of whether you have melee. The +1 missile attack upgrade just adds a little bit more value, I think, to the Roaches than it does for the Lings.
Yeah. I have to agree. So, well, we'll see. I mean, it can be a cool counterattack. Speaking of counterattack, the 3rd hatch is going to get focused down. The cancel does go off. Drone assassinated. And Serral dips and dives in there looking for more and sees that there's no gas being mined at the... I mean, this is just textbook Woo! It's early morning for us over here, boys. Sorry. Anyways, he scouts everything. Sees no lair, sees no gas, and he has to know that his Roach tech is extremely powerful at this point in time. He's not worried about a Muta counterattack. He knows that the only threat really is Lings. And he, you know, Serral's so good, he probably looks at that and says, let's even give him +1. What do I have to worry about there? Not much.
Yeah, I kind of like what Denver's doing, at least with small little things. He's just continuing to...
Base, left side.
Yeah, okay. Third base going to get canceled once again. Serral is so on top of this. And I think there's not quite enough Lings over here for Denver.
No, not yet. And when there is enough, you should just focus it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Serral is so fun to watch.
I love that Denver's just like, yeah, I'm probably going to lose the drone to Serral too. Might as well just pull another one over.
Yeah.
Denver's like prepared to go for this big counterattack swing in with these Lings over by the third, but he's just waiting for the Roaches, I guess, to move out, and now he sees that the Roach is moving out, and look at the reaction time from Serral. Just immediately sees, okay, yep, Lings are coming back. Let me pull the Roaches back. And
they do get in. They're going to need to do a lot of work. Going after the Roach on the ramp is a little bit questionable because killing Roach at this point in time is not really what they're meant to do. So you can, I mean, look at the mineral line for Serral, by the way, at the natural. This is like just a battered line of drones, but not dead, right? He's only lost 2 so far. The Queen tucks into a great position. And that's not what the counterattack's meant to do. Now, it did create some confusion and chaos, but look at Serral. He's already moving over there.
Yep, moving over there with some Roaches. At the same time, there are some more Lings trying to swing around. A lot of action happening everywhere. Even the attack over by Denver's third base does eventually get cleaned up. Lings actually starting to get in on top of these drones. I want to note, for a decent amount of time, Denver did have a bit of a drone lead.
Yeah.
But once Serral finally got up enough Roaches, he just went straight back into droning himself and was able to reclaim it.
And now with that lair tech, he's getting +2 range attack. He's getting speed. And you can actually kind of see, unfortunately, Denver... It's kind of weird because this is like a concession. He's going into his own Roaches with +1 range, but he can never make more. He has a worse economy. He's way behind in tech. He's going to be behind an upgrade at best, and he's not investing more into the melee upgrade. I mean, I get it. I know he wants to try and survive against the Roach phase, but in my opinion, you have to like double down. You just keep making Lings, and when Serral leaves, because you actually just scouted too, that it's just now a lair. And then you try, I mean, maybe that's not a great game plan, but I feel like making your own Roaches is basically just handing the game over. I don't see how I can possibly win from here.
It's pretty difficult, but he does at least have 19 Roaches. I mean, with the defender's advantage, maybe he can pull out enough, but it is, like you said, still going to be behind in those upgrades by a significant bit. Oh, Roach speed starting up right now.
Yeah, you know, I'm more just speculating live. So I look at this and I go, okay. He has got a decent number of Roaches. Serral doesn't feel comfortable being super aggressive, so maybe some question mark is in his head about this +1 melee Lings, like, because he himself is not like, you know, he doesn't have 20 drones more or something crazy like that. He's only up a few.
Yeah, what I actually really like about how Denver's been playing this, though, is he's had so many of these kind of run-bys and counterattacks. I say that as Serral does one himself, but I think that Serral is maybe really respecting the run-by potential, even when they're not ready there. You can see that he's playing a little bit more defensive. He's moving his army around the map looking for some Lings. And oh my god, Serral's getting so much damage.
He kills 6 drones with like 8 Lings, which is more than basically the 2 massive run-bys did by Denver. Now, of course, it's apples and oranges, but it's just kind of impressive to see Serral's target fire and priority and knowing what he can get done with everything that he does. Now, some Ravagers are being morphed out here, and that will be an advantage over what Serral has, but Serral has finished the +2 range attack, and I believe he has more Roaches as his army supply is over 20 in his favor. He's also going to get Tunneling Claws here. And of course, he can make his Ravagers if he wants.
Yeah, not opting to do so right now. He has an overwhelming number of Roaches. Gonna eat a couple of those Corrosive Vials there, but he gets on top of the Ravagers. Yeah. That's it. GG. Serral takes the first map.
Yeah, it's always funny. Like, that would be a miss micro, because he took the Corrosive Vials, but he like looked at the battle and was like, it's over. Doesn't matter. So he just kind of walked into it and just kept going.
No need to waste any time there. And not an unexpected result so far. Denver,
well played by Denver.
Yeah, I mean, Denver, I think, actually did a really, really great job. He impressed me a lot with his big Zergling run-bys, his constant attempts to keep Serral on the defensive, and he managed to get in with a handful of those Lings. Not only that, but his aggression, even though it didn't win the game, it kept him even, I feel like, for a lot of those kind of waves of aggression.
That was impressive. He had some good ideas. It's not even that we look at that necessarily, and this is the really fun thing about Serral, our reigning champion, is that we don't look at this and go, Denver really messed this up, he really made a bad call there. Like, sure, we can be critical of some of the choices, but for the most part, it was very well done. It's mostly just that when you watch Serral, you're like, that was the perfect choice. That was phenomenal micro. And then more often than not, and I love this, he does something that I didn't even, really see coming. He's not reinventing the wheel per se, but just the choices he makes. The big wall-in at the natural, we've seen that before, of course, but this is how you're supposed to do it correctly. The queens were always in the right position. Yes, they got surrounded. Yes, they got killed, but it was always in a fair and better exchange for Serral. So just, I mean, I know what it sounds like for guys at home. They're like, God, they're all over Serral. It's like, yes, and honestly, I'm a sports fan. I watch other competitions. When there's somebody this special, it's kind of hard. I mean, what do? There's nothing to be critical about. You can only kind of bask in the glory that is Serral.
God, the defense there from Serral it felt a little unreal because you have those the super small things, Jeff, that make a world of difference.
Sure.
Buying an extra 3 or 4 seconds because he makes sure that the broodlings are properly blocking off the wall. It's just all the small little things that he does are just so fun to watch.
Yeah, you almost went into a Blink-182 song, and I was going to encourage you to do that. That'd be awesome.
Oh, I completely missed that.
All the small things?
Oh, yeah. Okay, I can dig it.
Oh, my God. No.
It's carrying over. All right, spawning down here in the bottom right-hand corner of the map, we have our blue Zerg player. He is Team Ence's Serral.
During the thunderstorm in Finland, as a proper villain should.
And spawning up here in the top left, we have our red Zerg player. He is Denver. Not actually from Denver.
Yeah, I always like that. When a guy's got a name from a place, you're like, oh, you from there? No. Big John Denver fan, maybe.
Is that why Rotterdam is named Rotterdam, even though he's from Amsterdam?
That one's true, yeah. Okay, your meme's way better than mine. Jeez. That's a good one.
I've been working on my Roddy jab.
That's a good one.
I need to.
The one you said yesterday was incredible, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Off air, though.
Yeah. I'll have to save it for another pylon show.
What was it, though? Oh,
it was about Warcraft 3. He goes for he was famous for going for Farseer instead of Blade Master.
But you said, but why not go Colossus or something?
Yeah, because he has a chain lightning spell, which is kind of like Storm. So you're like, why don't you go for Colossus, Roddy?
Got him. We love Kevin. Well, with Denver, he pulled out like 3 different phases of like, I think this should beat Serral or at least give me a chance. But Serral just slammed the door shut. So this game, it looks like we're going to return to a bit of normalcy. But some of the ways, you can go to the Scarlet Book of Tactics and find ways to perhaps get under the skin of Serral, and especially in a short best of 3. In fact, if that was a best of 3, Serral would have lost to Scarlet.
Yeah, harkening back to WCS Valencia round of 16. Right?
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. So I mean, I'd love to see some Muta play. I just would not go into the game and be like, you know what? I'm going to out-macro him with Roaches, and I'm going to out-micro him with our Roach Ravager battles. I don't think I would do that with Serral. I would do something. You don't have to go as crazy as game 1, but maybe an off-tech like a Muta Ling or Fast Hive. Remember when people used to go Fast Ultras? Probably not very good.
Oh, God, there was like that awkward period of time where people realized, Ultras just don't really die to anything that anyone else is making. Good. Turns out.
Lurkers, maybe something. I just would do something different than... And I know, these guys are pro gamers, they're very good. We saw a lot of good stuff from Denver, so a lot of what I'm saying, too, is a little bit of caster armchair quarterbacking. It's not...
No, I know what you mean, though. Like, I also want to see something that's not 100% straight up by the book ZvZ from Denver, because as soon as you try and take Serral into one of those games, you're already going to be playing from a very difficult spot. But
I think you just lose. Good micro here.
Yeah.
Not losing a Ling so far. Nicely done by Serral as well, of course.
Yeah, I think Denver really just wants to be able to buy a little bit of time for that Overlord, and should be able to get out of there alive, scot-free without losing it.
And they both take that aggressive forward third base, which tells us that, I mean, the only reason you take that base, it's not like it's more defensible or anything like that, it's just that it's outside of those rocks. And if you amass your army there, knock down the rocks, you're within striking position of really kind of cutting this map in half. Otherwise, both players, as Ravi's pointing out here, with our wonderful observing, is just heading into that mid-Ling, Baneling phase, be it defensive or offensive. We'll have to wait and see, but both players want to kind of macro this out for the time being.
Yeah, with the Evo Chambers also coming down, wouldn't be surprised to see both of them just going for the +1 missile attack, even if they don't immediately start up on the Roach Warren or the Roaches, is just kind of gearing up for that later stage of the game. Unless it's some sort of crazy fake out again from Denver, where he decides, you know, I'm going to make it look like I'm going for Roaches, but really I'm just flooding Lings and Banelings, which, well, 12 more Lings on the way. That is a little different than Serral right now.
Otherwise, pretty similar, though. Serral's going to have the later Roach Warren here, but just by a little bit. It's actually kind of cool. If you look at the stat line down there, very similar everything, right?
Yeah.
Drones, army, all about the same tech. They're going the same way.
Ooh, Serral's Baneling's morphing in just a little bit later, but he's still going to be able to make it work. Okay connections there for Denver, but considering I think he wants to get a little bit more aggressive, he made more Lings than Serral.
Yeah. It's okay, though.
Yeah.
Lings, they come out pretty quick, and they come out large. But if you don't get a lot done, I mean, within reason, of course. If you make 60 Lings and to get nothing done, then, well, that's a lot of problems. But as it is, that's okay.
Yeah, I'm wondering, where is the... Okay, we do have a little bit of a difference with the lair timing here for Denver coming up a bit earlier, but Serral still just has an extra 150 or so gas bank. I can't try to tell if that's just because of the Banelings that were made for Denver, or if there's something else Denver's invested into.
I wouldn't lose any sleep over it. It's just they're both going the same way, off by a few seconds. It's actually kind of, again, it's funny. If you look at the production tab up there, it's just the same things back and forth. But here's that signature Serral play where he's just so good about informing himself on saturation, gases being taken. You know, if he sees early Ravages there, that's information as well. And here's Denver doing a good job as well. Pops in, gets a couple of drones, I believe, and some good intel. Sees the lair.
Yeah, actually, I'm not even sure if he actually got a drone there. He may have gotten one, but those are actually Denver's drones going down.
Yeah, you're right. They're on the gas. We can take a look at the mineral line. There's a couple that were really low. If they got saved, and that's just like, that's one of those things where it's Serral's like really good, but also when you're this good, you're lucky too, you know? And, oh, there it is. And I love this. Nicely done by a Denver man here.
Yeah, I mean, this is a pretty normal thing for a lot of Zerg players to do as a bit of a mix-up and a bit of a, hey, did you expect that I was going for mutas with the Roaches? You can kind of catch your opponent a bit off.
The order's different, though, Robbie, to be fair. A lot of times you go mutas and then follow it up with a big Roach timing attack, but as it is right now, he's actually making Roaches. He's upgrading in alignment with Serral. So he's reversing the order a little bit, which is dangerous on the one hand, because you're encouraging your opponent to make Roaches as you made some Roaches, but then you're getting away from the Roach count. So defending a fourth, defending a third, that's going to be rough, and the muta count's going to be tough. But what he's doing here is he's playing off time, right? Like everything about what you're seeing from Denver is,
oh God, 5 workers. Okay, still sitting on relatively even numbers. The overseer.
Fourth though. Oh yeah,
fourth got canceled. Oh man.
Pops in, he gets deflected though, but the Lings, and they always go in the main. He always does that. Boy.
And there it is, spots it out. Spire is already complete, so it's not the worst situation in the world here for Denver, but...
That's pretty bad, Rovi.
You can still get some value from the mutas, right? Because if the mutas are about to pop out, you can still kill off some overlords, you can still keep Serral at home for a bit.
Yes, but the time that he's doing it, it diminishes everything you just said. So yes, you'll get a couple overlords, but if you go mutas first, you get quite a few. The Spore Crawlers will be finished. The Hydra Tech is very easy to go towards right now because his economy is approaching 4 bases. So everything that makes Muta strong still exists right now. It's just that they're coming out in a more advanced world where it's not going to be nearly as profitable. Now the nice thing is this does tell Serral that he cannot move out until he has a Hydra count of some semblance. So, I mean, again, the unfortunate thing is Denver's remaking a fourth, like you pointed out. So that too is a problem, but at least he'll be able to get it, I guess.
Yeah, eventually. He is also finding, you know, I think he's found like 3-4 overlords, so it's some damage, and of course those mutas are going to stay alive for a little bit longer. But like you said, Hydra's coming on out. Serral, actually Serral's getting decently supply blocked. That's not too bad.
Attack at the 4th base. Yeah, there's the mutas.
Engaging directly versus some of those Hydras as the rest of the army. I guess some of the Lings trying to do a little bit of run by. The Roaches catching them.
Now, if you look, Serral has not upgraded weapons 2. He is making Hydras for those mutas, which are not being invested into any further, except for the fact that there is going to be +1 air attack finishing. And Denver has been making more Roaches and Ravagers, so he is going to have a slight army supply right now, but it's going to be that kind of, that clash of Roach Ravager against Hydro Roach.
Yeah, this army does not look quite as durable over here for Denver, and he's getting encroached in on. These Roaches are not going to let him escape scot-free. The Muta is really not able to participate in this fight with the Hydras there.
No, not even a little bit. And you'd think that with the way this fight went, Denver is behind in upgrades. He's actually ahead. Well, no, excuse me. He was not ahead. It did not finish yet. My bad. I hit +1 range attack. It looks like my computer's frozen.
Oh, my computer's frozen too. Looks like all. You know what? This actually might be.
Just like yesterday.
Or yesterday.
No, it is. Yeah, that's what happened yesterday at about this time.
At about exactly this time. Yep.
Yeah, no joke, Roby.
All right. Well, you know the bright side is, if it's us, it's not Serral.
Right.
Which means that Serral's internet has not completely died in a thunderstorm. Because that would actually be a lot more unfortunate. Because then we'd have to delay things even more. But all right.
It kind of depends, Ravi. If we don't have internet here, it can be pretty bad, actually. Can't broadcast when you don't have internet.
That is true.
Yeah.
I wonder what would we even do in that situation? Would we just record a VOD and broadcast that?
I don't know. I'm guessing they don't want us to speculate too much, though, on it right now.
Actually, yeah, we couldn't record a VOD because we wouldn't have internet to watch the games. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be probably resuming from replay right there as, again, kind of a weird situation there. But you know what? Serral, still in a decent spot, like you were saying. He's got a lot of those Hydras. He just enclosed in on Denver's army. So Denver's in a kind of rough spot. And I feel like sometimes when you have these like gaps of time where you're like sitting from behind, then you resume a game, it's like I don't actually even know exactly why this is always the case, but I feel like every single time you see these situations where someone's behind and then you resume the game almost always ends within like 2-3 minutes.
I could see that being the case. Yeah, possibly. We're getting into the game right now. Thank you guys for your patience. The nice thing is that if this is something that happened yesterday, it only happened the one time, and we had a completely smooth rest of the day. So that's hopefully the case. Nice ZvZ so far, and I guess the only thing I would kind of spend time breaking down is just the choices against Serral. The mutas didn't work out, but I do still like. I mean, that's the kind of funny thing too, is when you face someone like a Serral, you can try something and it doesn't work, and then people will be like, "Aha, that was a bad idea," and it's like, It is and it is not at the same time, because I do think that when you play against Serral, you have to mix it up. You cannot play just into outplaying him.
Who do you think in this group has the best chance versus Serral?
I guess it's Euthermal, right?
Yeah.
Historically. And funny enough, Serral was saying his ZvT is his worst matchup at GSL versus Korea, even though he destroyed Maru.
You know what's weird is I actually feel like...
And Innovation.
He says that, and I do trust him to some extent. Like, you know, he probably knows his own...
To some extent, yeah.
To some extent. He probably knows his own play a little bit better than I do. But, like, the sense I've always gotten is that Serral lately, like, it used to be that ZvT was his weaker matchup. I feel like lately it's more ZvZ than anything else. And it's, like, relative weaker matchup because he's still better than almost everyone else. But it's, like, I feel like ZvT is the one that makes me look and I'm like, dropping games versus Scarlet, had a rough series, like, pretty close series, even though he did 3-1. He's had a pretty close series versus Dark. Like, I don't know.
I guess it begs the argument. I think you are onto something there. But the guy, I mean, even if it is his worst matchup, beat Dark, beat Scarlet.
Still ends up winning.
Yeah. And then in ZvT, if that is his worst matchup, like he says, destroyed Innovation, had a really good game, but beat Maru in the full 25 minutes that it was or whatever. I mean, we are living in a strange time where we're talking about a player like this that is arguably the best player on planet Earth, and it's not a Korean. And that's what's making it so fun for me, is he's got to keep it going at Montreal. If he does that and we see him at BlizzCon, if a non-Korean ever won BlizzCon, that would be... Yeah, I've been going there for almost 20 years, and it's just not even been a possibility. This would be amazing.
Yeah, what do you feel like the difference is between him and, like, Neeb from last year? Because I know a lot of people had similar hopes and expectations for Neeb, especially even actually Montreal was a really good finish for Neeb. It was, like, one of his best WCS performances, and then 2 months later, like, BlizzCon rolls around. He has, a decent showing in the first series, and, like, I think the second series is okay, and then kind of gets bopped in the last one.
Well, I mean, I love Neeb, and I'm a big fanboy, but I think Serral is an improvement. He just, the highest we've ever seen from Neeb is not nearly as high as we're seeing from Serral. Neeb won the Kespa Cup, and that was amazing. It was a lot of it due in part because he was the guy that was kind of forging the narrative, if you will, for PvP, and a lot of people are catching up to him. Serral is not breaking convention. He's not doing any innovative play style that he's capitalizing off of. He is just better than the people he's playing against, which was true for Niba outside of Korea. But in Korea, I don't know that he was necessarily better than a lot of the Koreans. He was just playing a better play style, basically, that they then copied and then beat him.
Yeah, it's so funny whenever you hear people talk about why Serral is so good. It's like, oh, well, he's better at creep spread. He's really good at engagements. He's really good at larva injects. He's good at pretty much just everything. And it's kind of like that idea that when you combine all of it together, it's like, well, where's his weak points? Like, well, you don't really have like one core weak point you could just kind of point out. Where I feel like a lot with Neeb, people would say, you know, Neeb still seems to struggle with a lot of these really hyper aggressive plays because he'd play really greedy a lot of the time, and he would because he would get away with the greed. But Serral doesn't really have that as much, I feel like, which is rough. But we are getting back into the game finally. All right.
Game paused.
Yeah, a little bit of choppiness there.
Yep. Okay. Might be coming back. Well, as soon as the players have their frame rate issues resolved, then we'll be able to jump back into the game.
Yeah, it was just kind of it was choppy for everyone, so I'm not sure. I guess we just give it a second.
It might have just been someone else lagging or something, because the game is lagging for everyone for a moment. It slows down for everyone.
Maybe.
I'm like trying to take a look and see. I think I still have decent frame rate. Yeah. All right. Well, hopefully we'll be able to get started soon. What are your thoughts on the next match, since we have some time? Thermal versus Hearthstone?
It's going to be a good one, Ravi. It's going to be super great. They're going to get back into it. Yeah, that's why I was kind of wondering why we... Now it's totally fine. I think it's always funny. We pause. We're like, it's laggy. And we're like, well, what do we do? Unpause? And then they did. This is where we are.
All right. Well, we are seeing the big engagement here. Serral starting to push on forward. He's got a lot of the Hydras, and hey, it looks like Denver starting to rally forward a couple of units. Is it going to be enough to defend, though?
Don't believe so. Look at the supply.
I don't know. He's actually not doing too poorly right now.
No, he's not doing too poorly.
All right. Well, +2 missile attack and getting close to finishing over here for Denver as well. If he can hold on even just a little bit longer, he's going to actually have a bit of a lead in terms of those upgrades as he actually starts to charge across the map. Maybe sensing that, yeah, with the Hydras out, you don't want to give your opponent too much time to start rebuilding up a massive ball of army.
Yeah, if you can catch a drone cycle or something like that, that'd be pretty cool. But Serral, I mean, that's the funny thing too, though, right? They both have 66 and 69 drones, so
yep.
You're not really going to make drones at this point in time. You're not catching anybody. It's time to fight, and that's what they're going to do.
All right, Serral slightly out of position over here for a moment's time, and he's going to go for some corrosive biles on the eggs. Doesn't quite get any of them, though.
He's one away.
Oh, so close, and yeah, those roaches are going to finish up. Oh, man, Denver, it was looking so good for a moment. I guess he just kind of overcommits a bit.
A little bit, but they both did back and forth, right?
Yeah.
Like you were kind of calling it out. Now here's that counterattack from Serral. Shows up and will kill some drones. But Denver's got a few to give. Goes down to 64. Actually, drones died on the other side, too. I didn't see what did that. What did that?
Did drones die on the other side? It was just 5 drones for Denver, right?
I thought I saw 4. But maybe, you know what?
Okay.
Sometimes old Poppy in control is a little bit wrong. Not afraid to admit it. Or a lot bit wrong, actually. That happens, too.
Oh, man. Serral, he's still leading up a little bit in supply, but it's also that just that he has the better tech with those Hydras. He only has 3 out right now, but I think it's also it's kind of what we saw a little bit of yesterday with all the ZvZs, where the player that has Hydras, yeah, they can go into the lurkers, and if that lurker den is finished before Denver even really invests into something like an infestation pit or like a lurker den or Hydra den, oh, it's so hard to play catch up.
Tough cookies. Serral gonna back up here. Some corrosive vials not quite connecting.
Yeah, it's
on the right side. Okay. Show him the bad news.
Oh boy, yeah. Serral finding a much better trade over here. Denver's starting to rally in a lot of his roaches and should be able to compete with this, especially with the reinforcements. And he's able to push Serral back on the other end. So, you know, it was looking a little bit scary.
I'm not crazy. 9 drones died.
Okay. Yeah. Roach counterattack over here on the south side.
I knew it.
We don't have the Roddy observing, so.
Well, he's just such a talented observer, you know?
Can't really compete.
You can compete. Just not probably beat him in it.
Yeah, it's
right?
kind of like me versus Serral.
No, that's wow. That's high praise for Roddy, I guess.
I mean, Roddy is such an amazing observer.
Got a lot of love for him. All right, well here, this attack moving over on the left side, and Denver does have the army supply advantage. He's up in workers. This is weird to say. All across the board, he is up. They're equal in upgrades. There's this one random, you know, muta upgrade, but that's not going to be a big deal. Good battle, though, here for Serral. He's got the Hydras behind this and the Ravagers. He's not letting the Corrosive Biles connect too terribly, as the supplies do equal there a little bit.
All right, little Roach counterattack also over by that 4th base, and Denver finding little bits and pieces of damage, actually taking a bit of a drone lead. But again, it's about the fact that that Lurker Den's finished up, 6 Lurkers on the way.
Yeah.
I feel like this is where it becomes so difficult for Denver to make stuff happen, but he does have a lot of Ravagers, and Ravagers can sometimes be a quick and easy answer to those Lurkers.
Whoa. The army of Serral gets pulled way out of position there a little bit, almost giving the high ground to this army.
Yeah, there was a little bit of a Roach counterattack, but that gets dealt very quickly by the Lurkers.
And now Serral feels empowered. It looks like those Lurkers are relocating to maybe push across here. And what's going to be the response? Denver sees that Lurkers are out. He's not making his own Hydra Den. He's just going to kind of double down on something you talked about, just having more Ravagers, and hope that that does the trick.
This is also annoying. When
They're on
all
patrol,
you have...
by the way.
Huh?
The Overlords are on patrol, so they don't get Corrosive Bile. It's just like a
Yeah.
funny little cool detail.
Yeah, but that, I mean, that's also the annoying thing, is that there's no anti-air over here for Denver, because he doesn't even have any of his mutas left over, so
Yeah.
it's just constant vision from Serral. He's not going to get caught out of position very easily. We do have an engagement going down over here, but Lurkers start burrowing very aggressively and push Denver back once again.
And Denver is going to go for that Hydra Den, but the question then becomes, can he hold on until then? Yes, he's maxed out, and their army supply is pretty equal, but that Lurker tech, as Ruby's been pointing out, is a pretty strong advantage. You can get them out of position, perhaps, but asking Serral to be out of position multiple times in the same game is a tough call.
Okay, well, he's
Good
going
counter,
to...
though.
Yeah, splitting up 4 and 4 Roaches, going over to the 3rd base. Sure, some Lurkers burrow, but the funny thing is, these Roaches are not actually going to go after the Lurkers then. They're going to go after drones, so they might be able to get some damage done. Now, the rest of them do get cleaned up pretty quickly, though.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh.
Oh, boy. Okay, well, Corrosive Bile's not quite able to connect with those Lurkers. Gets one of them with the Overseer there, but gets pushed back once again.
We were talking about this yesterday, that the hard part about Lurkers is you can kill them. Like, that's not the real question. They don't live forever, but it feels like they're always getting their damage in, right? Like, in theory, Ravagers can outrange them and pick them off, but the battle's never that clean. You're walking into them, they're doing damage, and 3 or 4 Lurkers hitting your army can just wreck it, and that's the real strength of them, I find. Yes, they're good defensively, and you have to have detection everywhere, but also they're just always trading, usually advantageously for themselves.
Honestly, Jeff, this is just like kind of painful to watch, because I feel like Denver's playing such an awesome game against so many other Zerg players here.
Yeah.
I think Denver just looks absolutely phenomenal. He's counterattacking from so many different angles. He constantly has these Roaches on run-by attempts. It's so multi-prong focused, and Serral's just handling it. It's like upsetting to watch, because I feel like Denver is looking worse than he really is right now.
I have to agree. This is where that, like, I normally bristle at when people use this language, but like, Denver deserves a win, you know? Like, he's playing so well that I could see it happening, but he's not going to get it. The 4th base, or the 3rd base, if you want to call it that, is destroyed. There's Lurkers in the natural, like, Denver's counterattacking with this, but that doesn't work in ZvZ. It doesn't become like a base trade scenario. You just kind of mass produce back at home, the Lurkers plant, and there goes the base trade. GG is called, and Serral will take the predictable 2-0 win.
Now, as much as of course, we can praise Serral, but you know what? Serral's gotten a lot of praise. I really do want to say Denver played really, really well that series. And if anything, I feel like I'm really hoping that he also feels like he played really well. And he's going to be able to move into the rest of his series today and say, you know what? I'm actually playing really well today. I actually put up a really good fight versus Serral. So
yeah, and that is a thing. I think you're right.
Maybe come out second in the group then.
Yeah, it's a tough group. This is like the group of death, I would say.
Yeah,
for Europe.
That's actually what Denver was also saying. It was like, you know, I got put in the group of death, but I'm really hopeful. And he's like, you know, I think I can maybe make